every June. An email lands in my inbox like a stone tossed into still water, rippling through memories I'd rather leave undisturbed. It's the invitation to the Spencer family reunion at our old estate in Monterey Bay, California, a place that once felt like my sanctuary, but now stands as a monument to my exclusion. My name is Sydney Spencer, 32 years old, Chief Strategy Officer for a financial powerhouse in Seattle. Yet to my family, I'm little more than a footnote. This year, as I sat in my high-rise office, the familiar subject line in all caps, "Don't forget the Spencer" family gathering stared back at me, daring me to hope for something different. But I knew the script by heart, a cheerful facade masking the same old dismissal. Why would this summer be any different? I was 11 the first time I felt the weight of being the other in my family. The Monterey estate, with its sprawling porch and salt-kissed air, buzzed with preparations for a grand reception. My mother, Helen, was orchestrating the event with my eldest sister, Erin, while my brother, Alex, lounged outside with Dad, learning the art of hosting. "Sydney, go do the dishes," Mom called, her voice sharp over the clink of glasses. I stood in the sweltering kitchen, soap bubbles clinging to my hands, listening to laughter echo from the porch. My chest tightened. Not from the heat, but from the realization that my role was already written support, never center stage. That summer marked the beginning of a pattern: Erin the radiant, Alex the ambitious, and me, Sydney. Just good enough to avoid scolding, but never memorable enough to be seen. Now, 21 years later, I leaned back in my office chair on the 28th floor, the Seattle skyline glinting in the morning light. The reunion email had arrived at precisely 9:00 a.m., sent by Erin with her usual upbeat tone, as if the whole family couldn't wait to reunite. But I wasn't fooled. For the past 7 years, I've been an afterthought, my name tacked onto the guest list to fill space. "Rooms are full. Sydney, maybe book a hotel nearby, 5 miles out," Mom would say, her voice sweet but unyielding, like clockwork. This year's email was no exception, with a faint note at the bottom: "Sydney, if attending, consider an Airbnb. We're at capacity." I stared at the screen, the words blurring as my assistant, Julia, walked in with 2 espressos. "Family reunion again?" she asked, catching the shadow on my face. I nodded, managing a dry laugh. "Let me guess, no room at the inn. Maybe Erin's daughter needs space for her art project this time." Julia's knowing smile softened the sting, but the truth lingered. My family didn't see me, not the Sydney who'd clawed her way to the top of a cutthroat industry, not the Sydney whose strategies shaped multi-million-dollar deals. To them, I was still the girl in the kitchen, invisible behind soap suds. My phone buzzed, a text from Olivia, my high school friend now thriving as a creative director in Chicago. "Monterey again, need emergency wine," I typed back. "How about a one-way ticket out of this family tree?" Her reply was instant. "You're too good for them. Sid, always have been." I smiled faintly, but the ache remained. Later that evening, as I predicted, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail, already hearing her honeyed excuses in my mind. "Sweet Sydney, I just don't want you to be uncomfortable. The roof's under renovation. Erin needs a quiet space for her work." I gazed out my office window, the city's silver dusk reflecting my resolve. This year, something felt different. Not pain, not resentment, but a quiet, steely certainty that I was done playing their game. The Seattle dawn was still a whisper of gray when I found the letter on my desk, its crisp envelope stamped with the board's seal. My promotion to regional CEO for the Northwest, effective July 1st, was no small feat, a decade of outpacing fierce rivals, of sleepless nights crafting strategies that turned Brookwell Capital into a titan. I traced the letter's edge, imagining, for a fleeting moment, sharing the news at the Monterey reunion. But the fantasy dissolved as my phone lit up with a notification: Erin's latest social media post. A sunlit snapshot of the family at a pre-reunion picnic, their laughter frozen in a frame where I didn't exist. Mom's comment beneath it stung like salt in a cut. Family is everything. I set the letter down. The weight of their indifference heavier than ever. 2 years ago, at Mom's 70th birthday celebration in a glittering San Francisco restaurant, I'd flown in from a strategy conference in Chicago, my tailored gray silk dress crisp from the journey. I arrived with a cashmere scarf I'd chosen in Florence, its soft folds a quiet offering. "Oh, Sydney, you made it," Mom said, her eyes skimming past me. "I thought you'd be too busy." Before I could place the gift, she turned to Erin, her voice warm as summer. "My darling girl, that dress matches your eyes beautifully." I stood amid crystal chandeliers, clutching the scarf, a stranger in a room of clinking glasses. Later, Alex rose to give a speech, his voice brimming with unearned confidence despite 3 bankrupt tech ventures. "We must always believe in each other, like Mom believed in me," he declared, and the family erupted in applause. Mom's tearful nod and Dad's proud clink with Uncle Stan felt like a scene I'd wandered into by mistake. No one asked about my work, not the deals I'd closed or the award I'd won for redesigning Brookwell's 10,000-square-foot headquarters. I swallowed cold pasta, listening to Mom praise Erin's childhood knack for color-matching dresses, as if my achievements were invisible. Weeks later, I offered to fund repairs for the Monterey Estate's roof. Its 2,000 square feet of moss-stained tiles a growing liability. "Oh, Erin and her husband have it covered," Mom replied coolly over the phone, her tone implying I was too busy to bother. "They're planning something special." I went silent, the rejection cutting deeper than I'd expected. That estate was where I'd learned to swim in the chilly Pacific, where I'd curled up with novels on the porch bench, dreaming of a future where I belonged, now. It was a fortress of exclusion, its faded facade a mirror of my family's neglect. Olivia's words from a dinner months prior echoed in my mind. "You're not the failure, Sid. They just can't handle that you've outshone them all." I'd smiled then, brushing it off. But as I stood in my penthouse that night, the Seattle skyline a constellation of ambition, her truth settled into me. They didn't know me, not the Cornell valedictorian, not the Wharton MBA on full scholarship, not the woman who'd climbed from intern to executive, and they never would, unless I forced them to see. I opened my laptop, the glow casting shadows across my desk, and scrolled through my achievements a Forbes feature, a National Design Award, a portfolio of deals that shifted markets. I'd once believed success would earn their pride, that if I scaled high enough, they'd have to look up. But Mom's birthday had shattered that illusion, and Erin's picnic post drove the lesson home. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, a restless energy stirring within. The reunion was weeks away, and while I could book that Airbnb 5 miles out, something in me resisted. The estate, with its creaking floors and ocean breeze, wasn't just their stage, it was mine too. And I wasn't ready to relinquish it. Not yet. The Monterey Estate wasn't just a house, it was a vault of memories I'd been locked out of. So when I stumbled across a real estate listing late one night, its faded facade staring back from my laptop screen, my breath caught. The beachside estate our family's pride was for sale, quietly posted 3 weeks prior. Its price slashed 20% for needed renovations. No one had told me. Not Mom, not Erin, not Alex. They assumed I wouldn't care. Or worse, that I couldn't afford it. I clicked the transaction history, a refinanced loan from 2 years ago, barely touched, now teetering on foreclosure. My family, so quick to boast of tradition, was scrambling to maintain appearances, hosting reunions in a home they could no longer keep. I leaned back, the Seattle skyline a silent witness, and texted Olivia, "It's time for the final move." Her reply was swift, not revenge. Sid, reclamation. The next morning, I called Laura, my attorney and financial advisor. her voice crisp over the line. "You want to buy the estate?" she asked. Surprise threading her tone. "Under your name," I smiled, a calm certainty settling in. "No. Use the holding company we set up last year. Let's keep it anonymous." Laura's laugh was sharp. "Nicely done. I'll start the process. Family stays in the dark." I nodded, though she couldn't see. "I've never told them anything. Not even the Forbes feature." No reason to start now. Within 3 weeks, the deal was sealed. The bank representative, eager for a quick sale, didn't question the funds wired from my holding company. I signed the contract in my office, 700 miles from Monterey. My coffee's still warm. Laura handed me the key, small, cold, a sharp promise of what I'd earned. I gripped it, not with triumph, but with a quiet resolve to restore what should have always been mine. Days later, the Hanley-Brookwell merger I'd spearheaded closed at $400 million, a deal that sent ripples through the financial world. I'd led the strategy, navigating months of negotiations, and the board's email arrived with the subject line that made my heart pause. "Congratulations, International Vice President nominee." The role, based in Singapore, was a new frontier, a chance to shape the Asian market. I sat on my office balcony, the Puget Sound glinting below, and let myself cry not for the title, but for the acknowledgement I'd craved my whole life. By morning, the Wall Street Review splashed my name across its business section. A photo of me in a navy suit shaking hands with Hanley's CEO captioned Sydney Spencer, the woman behind the billion-dollar shift. My phone erupted. Mom's text came first. "Tentative sweetheart. Was that you on the news Aaron followed?" Her skepticism thinly veiled. "Media loves a story. But congrats if it's real. Alex." Predictably. "Saw opportunity. Need a startup advisor. Let's collaborate." I locked the screen. Their words a hollow echo of years spent ignoring me. No apologies, just opportunism. As if one broadcast could rewrite their neglect. Olivia called that afternoon, her voice bright from Chicago. "Your LinkedIn is a wildfire. Sid, the whole industry's talking about you." I gazed at the Monterey key on my desk, its edges catching the light. "They're only calling because it's public now," I said, my tone dry but steady. "Aaron probably thinks it's a typo." Olivia laughed. "She's fuming somewhere, wondering how her little sister outdid her. You're going to Monterey. Right, film their faces when you tell them." I booked a flight for Thursday, 3 days before the reunion. My Hermes bag packed with a portfolio stamped with Hanley's logo. The estate was mine now, legally and irrevocably, and I'd be there to greet my family not as the girl they overlooked, but as the woman they could no longer ignore. The ocean's hum awaited, 700 miles south, and with it, a reckoning I'd waited decades to deliver. The Monterey estate stood silent under the Thursday morning sun, its weathered shingles soaking in the salt air as I paced the porch where I'd once dreamed of belonging. The key in my pocket, cold and sharp, was no longer just metal. It was proof of everything I'd built. Everything my family had refused to see. Tomorrow, they'd arrive, expecting to waltz into their annual stage, unaware that the script had changed. I set a folder on the living room table, its Reverend Hotel logo gleaming, containing golden keycards for rooms I'd reserved 10 miles away. This wasn't vengeance. It was a line drawn in the sand, a demand for the respect I'd earned. As the ocean whispered beyond the cliffs, I steeled myself for the moment I'd open the door and rewrite our history. Friday dawned with a haze over Monterey Bay, the crunch of gravel announcing their arrival. Mom's SUV led the caravan, followed by Aaron's sleek sedan and Alex's battered convertible. They spilled out, laughing, bags slung over their shoulders, as if the estate were still theirs. I poured coffee in the kitchen, the same counter where I'd scrubbed dishes as a child, and listened as Mom's voice carried through the window. "Aaron, your key's not working, click." Click nothing. Alex tried next, his frustration audible. I smoothed my blazer, heels tapping the wooden floor, and pulled the door open with a gentle creak. Their heads snapped up, eyes wide, as if I'd stepped out of a parallel world. "Welcome to the Monterey estate," I said, my voice soft as the sea breeze but edged with steel. "Please, come in." Mom squinted, her purse slipping slightly. "Sydney, what are you doing here?" "How did you get in?" Erin stepped forward, wary, her gaze darting to the useless key in her hand. "Who gave you access?" I let the silence stretch, walking to the living room where the hotel folder waited. "There's something you should know," I said, turning to face Mom directly. "This estate no longer belongs to the Spencer family. I bought it over a month ago through my private holding company. From now on, anything that happens here, reunions included, requires my permission." The air thickened, their faces frozen in a tableau of disbelief. Alex broke the quiet, his voice sharp. "You bought this place with what? Your salary?" I opened my iPad, the Wall Street Review article loading instantly, my handshake with Hanley's CEO blazing across the screen, with equity and executive rights from the $400 million merger I led. If you followed actual news instead of crypto scams, you might have noticed. Erin's eyes narrowed, her posture stiffening. Why keep it a secret? Why do it like this? I raised my chin, unflinching. "When was the last time any of you asked about my life? I'll remind you Mom's birthday. 2 years ago. I stood at the party table, and you asked me to step aside for a family photo I wasn't in." Mom sank into a chair, her face crumpling like paper. "So, what now?" she whispered. No reunion. I slid the hotel folder toward them, each envelope labeled with their names. "I've reserved the top floor of the Reverend Hotel, 10 miles down the coast. Private suites, a BBQ terrace, even a kids' zone. Everything you need for your gathering." Alex opened his envelope, the gold key card glinting, his throat bobbing as he swallowed. "And you?" Erin asked, her voice softer now. "You're not coming." I took a sip of coffee. "Steady. I'll be here. I have work, and I'm preparing for my relocation to Singapore." Mom's head jerked up. "Relocation?" I nodded. "International vice president. Starting next quarter, I'll lead the Asian market. Don't worry, I'll send photos, like the ones you sent without me." The room fell silent, the weight of my words settling like dust. Mom clutched her keycard, her hand trembling. "Sydney, I'm sorry," she murmured. I didn't respond, just held her gaze. My polite smile sharper than any rebuke. Erin shifted, her voice low. "You've made it. Sid, you've outdone us all." I shrugged, calm but unyielding. I didn't need to outdo anyone. I just wanted to be part of this family, something none of you offered for 20 years. I gestured to the door, my heels clicking as I led them out. They left without protest, their cars fading down the gravel path, leaving the estate to its new silence. I closed the door, the lock snap a final note in a song I'd been singing alone for too long. The Monterey estate exhaled a quiet peace the morning after the confrontation, its walls no longer echoing with my family's careless laughter. I sat on the porch, the ocean's rhythm steadying my pulse. The Reverend Hotel key cards now in their hands, 10 miles away. I'd drawn my line, not to banish them, but to demand a reckoning. As sunlight slanted across the weathered boards, I wondered if they'd return or if the door I'd opened would stay shut. My iPad hummed with emails about the Singapore roll, but my thoughts lingered on the estate, its faded grandeur now mine to reshape. Then, a soft knock broke the silence, and I knew the next chapter was beginning. Mom stood alone at the door, no luggage, just a worn oak box clutched tightly, its corners smoothed by time. Her eyes, sunken from a sleepless night, carried a regret too heavy for words. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said, her voice hoarse. I just, I have something for you. She handed me the box, its surface cool under my fingers. Inside, yellowed clippings whispered my triumphs. Young executive leads record-breaking deal. Sydney Spencer drives Brookwell's rise. My Cornell transcript. My Wharton MBA invite. I looked up, my voice barely a breath. You kept these. She nodded, gaze fixed on the box every time your name appeared. I saved it. Told myself you didn't need me, that you'd soared too far. I was afraid to admit I'd lost you. My throat tightened. You stayed silent because of pride. Tears traced her hands as she whispered, I was wrong. You don't have to forgive me. Just know I've watched every step, before I could answer. The gate creaked open again. Aaron stepped out. No makeup, no heels. Just jeans and an oversized blouse. A thick book, and an iced tea in hand. Still read on the balcony, she asked. A tentative smile flickering. Nelson followed, arms laden with a file folder and laptop, his expression sheepish. We're not here to apologize, Aaron said softly, her voice clear but unguarded. Words won't fix a decade of neglect. Nelson nodded, setting his folder down. I've enrolled in an online business course. Not to impress you. But to start fresh, if you're open, I'd value your advice. I studied them. These figures who'd once cast me as the shadow to their spotlight. Now, their eyes held no pretense, only a fragile hope. Change is an instant, I said, my tone measured. But today, we're listening. That's a start. We gathered in the dining room, the estate's long table no longer a stage for exclusion. Over a simple meal, grilled fish and summer greens, conversation unfolded. Halting but real, Nelson shared his course outline. Nervous but earnest, Aaron spoke of a 3-month leave to visit Singapore. Not to direct, but to connect. As your sister, she added quickly, not to tell you what to do. I set boundaries, my voice firm. If we rebuild, it's with respect. No more sidelining. No more photos I'm not in. Mom nodded, her hands steady now. No more favoritism. I'm learning. As dusk painted the sea orange, I felt a shift, not forgiveness, but the first stirrings of acceptance. The estate, once a symbol of my erasure, glowed with the possibility of a new kind of family, one we'd have to earn together. The Monterey estate glowed under the Sunday afternoon sun, its windows catching the light as I sorted papers in the study. My suitcase packed for Hong Kong. The dinner with Mom, Aaron, and Nelson had left a fragile warmth, a tentative bridge where none had existed before. My flight loomed, carrying me to a high-rise apartment overlooking Victoria Harbor and a boardroom awaiting my leadership. Yet, as I sealed a folder of contracts, Mom appeared at the door, her face softened by thought. A moment, she asked, voice like fading sunlight. I nodded, closing my laptop. Come in. She sat, watching me. I don't expect forgiveness yet, but I'd like to start anew, on your terms. My heart eased, and I spoke slowly. Then it begins with equality, more hierarchies. No more silence. She agreed. No defenses raised. A promise to try. Later, Aaron arrived alone, a folded Hong Kong map marked with quiet cafes and hidden trails tucked under her arm. Not to plan your life, she said. A sheepish smile breaking through. You always wanted to explore. I thought I'd help. Her eyes, once commanding, now invited. And I saw the sister I'd longed for. Visit, I said, but as family, not a guide. She laughed, nodding. That evening, an email from Nelson pinged a business proposal, raw but researched. With a note I'm learning, Sid, not proving. Thanks for the chance. I sent edits back, adding, sincerity is a good start. As I stepped onto the porch, the sea's distant lights flickered, and Mom joined me, holding a small sign. Good luck, Sydney. I smiled, eyes misting, not from loss, but from the freedom of leaving as myself. Chosen, not discarded. The estate would welcome them again, but only if they met me halfway. Standing at the window of my Hong Kong apartment, the pulse of Victoria Harbor's lights humming below, I trace the arc of my journey from Monterey's shadowed porch to this glass tower, the estate. Once a cage of my family's dismissal, now stands as a testament to the lesson I've carved from 20 years of being unseen. True worth isn't forged in others' applause, but in the quiet courage to claim your own space. I'd spent decades chasing success, believing that titles, deals, and magazine covers would force Mom, Aaron, and Alex to see me. Yet when I held the estate's key, its cold edges sharp with my triumph, I realized their validation was a hollow prize. Buying the estate wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was enough. Each clipping Mom saved, each tentative step Aaron and Nelson took, taught me that family isn't a birthright. It's a bond earned through respect, not obligation. I could have locked them out forever, but opening the door, setting boundaries, and demanding equality showed me that strength lies in building bridges without sacrificing self. As I prepare to lead in Singapore, I carry no need for revenge, only the peace of knowing I've reclaimed my story, not to outshine anyone, but to stand firm in my light. Unshaken by storms I no longer need to weather alone.